I think there's one right here. Yeah, that one.
Yes, yeah.
Hello. Okay, it's 1:30. If we could please call to order, and everyone, if you could please silence your devices. Town clerk, can you do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Stern,
Present.
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Present.
Commissioner David,
Present.
Vice Mayor Moore,
Present.
Town Attorney Tercivia, and Town Manager Labadie.
Present.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the pledge. And also, after we do the pledge, if we could continue standing for a moment of silence for the unfortunate passing of Mayor Doug Hellman.
I pledge allegiance.
Thank you, everyone. And before we get into public comments, I wanted to give anyone who wanted to the opportunity to make very brief comment in honor of Mayor Hillman. Okay. Please state your name and where you live.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Fred Rose and I live at Boca Highlands. Doug was a dear friend of mine and for a long time now, and he's going to be missed. And the only thing that I'm very hopeful for is the town will consider naming the new firehouse after him. He worked pretty hard to get it. And also I would like to congratulate the new commissioners. I know you guys will be great. And just thank you for your service and thank everybody that's been on this commission for your service. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone on the dais want to make a brief comment in honor of Mayor Hillman?
So I would say over 3 years, Doug and I worked closely together. And in fact, I have to share the story that after we had breakfast one day, I came in and he presented me this jacket and said, "It looks better on you than on me." And so I continue to wear it as a reminder for one professional, outstanding business person who brought order, teamwork, a feeling of good faith, and made us really productive as a commission. And so for that, I think there is a lasting memory. I support naming the firehouse after the mayor. I think he had gone through such a difficult time with both his wife and then him and his family. I pray for them and will remember him always.
Thank you. Evelyn?
Doug Hillman was a personal friend. What he brought to this town and what he did for this town in 3 years, which is a very short period of time, was extraordinary. We absolutely owe him a debt for starting and pushing forward our new fire department, which we will absolutely continue in his memory. And I agree, we should name the firehouse.
Commissioner Stern?
I guess there's only one word that I can think of that best would describe him, and that's the word mensch. I mean, that was the man. You got what you saw. He was upfront. Whether you disagreed or agreed, he was respectful, and he'll always be in my memory, a blessed memory. Thank you.
On Tupelo, I'm gonna read a couple of things that I wrote. One, to the employees, he really liked working with each of you. For the employees in the room, he always used to tell us, he wanted Highland Beach to become the preferred employer, the place where everybody wanted to go, to be that destination for employees, and he always looked out for them. And I think he would want you to know that he appreciated working with you. But again, I kind of sum it up, and at the end of the sentence, I put it in there as a little twist because I think he would have loved it, because I always took some of his sayings. He worked tirelessly as our mayor for 3 years to ensure that 3 Miles of Paradise remains strategically focused on our bright future, its natural beauty, and its captivating, and this is the good part, yet understated elegance. And he always said that everything I touched and did, he said what the outcome should be is understated elegance. Highland Beach is great, but no one should know we're here. Everybody should want to be here, but only for us. So it was great to kind of have that focus. And I concur with David. He was a mention. He became a friend and a mentor, and I think I'm truly better for knowing him. So thank you.
And we all know Mayor Hillman was, to me, the personification of a true gentleman. He was always professional. He was always kind. He was always caring. He cared about this town, the residents and the employees, and I'm going to miss you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an honor to work with Doug Hillman, and I started out with him on the Financial Advisory Board and then on the commission, and he was such a mentor, such a great example of really doing what was best for the town. I truly felt with every decision that he made, it was truly what he felt was in the best interest of this town. And I am honored to take this position. Was never any way I thought I would take this position, but I'm honored to have it and to continue his legacy. That is really my goal, to continue the legacy that he has laid for us. And I welcome your support in that. So, and I offer the deepest condolences and sympathy to his family and friends. And with that, let's move on to public comments. Barry?
Mayor, Commissioners, Barry Donaldson, 3700 South Ocean Boulevard, Highland Beach. David, Commissioner Stern, you can appreciate this. I'm the guy who voted against appointing Doug Hillman to the commission when we had a vacancy. It was a tough choice, and this commission has to make tough choices. But I knew at the time Doug needed to be mayor. He didn't need to be a member of this commission. He needed to be mayor. And it helped make it a little easier decision. But I can tell you that certainly the town is still reeling from Doug's loss. He was not only mayor, but he was friends to many, many of us. And he's going to be missed at both a personal and a public level. But I will say it's comforting to have an active and seasoned vice mayor to step into that role. And I certainly endorse Natasha as she continues in that journey. Her work on the water sewage rate, her financial insights into the fire and rescue building, and her promotion of community building exercises has been exemplary. So thank you for that. So now the commission is going to be left with the consideration of completing and filing the resulting vacancy. David, I respect you, all the work you've done. It's been phenomenal, but I really have to say that we really have a good choice in John Shoemaker to fill that vacancy. Like Mayor Moore, John's gone far beyond his role as commissioner, seeking out and highlighting many stories of our military veterans in town, as well as enthusiastically supporting community building exercises like our events outside, the food trucks and all that. It's been wonderful to help bring this town together. And he has a solid, hardworking relationship with his fellow commissioners to help build consensus on critical issues facing the town. As the town enters a critical period in the run-up to the groundbreaking for the fire rescue station, personnel to staff the new services, audit of the Delray Beach finances, the true-up controversy, the new budget, and approaching RRR, the County Milani project. The community needs his continued beneficial insight into the affairs of the community. John recently lost a very close election, garnering 47% of the vote. That shows a substantial support for him in this community, and I hope you will listen to the voters. So appreciate your consideration. I know it's a difficult decision, and I wish you luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jack.
Jack Halpern, 4511 South Ocean Boulevard. Fred, thank you for the recommendation. I personally support the firehouse being named after the mayor, and I wanted to try and get that out on a CSHB email, but I didn't have enough time to gather the quorum to get approval. Two things. One, my hope is that you'll do the same approach that we've used for selection of Commissioner Stern, that you go out to people, you get resumes, etc. I hadn't planned to discuss a particular candidate, but I would caution you, don't look at people who are going to create controversy to add them to the commission. This is a chance to move forward with the commission. Creating controversy will only make things worse. Trying to take a person who lost an election and then appoint them to a board. I must have had 75 emails about this subject, at least, and texts and phone calls. This would not be looked upon very well in any way, shape, or form, and I think will just create major controversy within the town. Someone who was appointed to the commission previously, who was never elected initially and then never elected a second time, should not be on this board. So I ask that you go back, that you did the same format you did with David, where you go out for resumes and look to appoint somebody to the board who is not going to be controversial, who hasn't lost elections, who hasn't proposed $46 million bond issues or anything like that. So that's my suggestion to you. On another thought, DOT, the people that we're getting response from, we would like to see a public hearing from DOT. The meeting the last Monday night, they indicated that there was a 2-foot, they would only take 2 foot from the west side of A1A if you went to that meeting along the entire part of Highland Beach. We've already had people out measuring. Guess what? You need 32 foot of roadway. There are places that it's only 26 and 27 feet wide. So you need to add 5 and 6 foot of roadway in places. So we know they're wrong. We don't understand why, but that is, anybody can take a tape measure out there and measure the width of the roadway, and you can see they need 32 feet, subtract 30, whatever number you get from 32 feet. My 3-year-old granddaughter could do it, and you will figure out how much additional roadway they need. And it ain't 2 feet in Highland Beach. And there are some other things we're hearing that we're getting different numbers, such as trees lost and things like that. We would like to have a public hearing so this can go on the record and get clear answers. Thank you. We look forward to working with you this next year in a very close relationship. Thank you.
Thank you. Maggie.
My name is Maggie Chapelier. I live on Bel Air Drive. Everyone in this room wants the best for Highland Beach. That's what our beloved mayor also wanted. If he were here right now, I know who he would pick beyond the commissioner mayor. It would be John Shoemaker. Since there's a great void that's been created due to the passing of our mayor, we need a candidate who has experience in our town projects. He gives us continuity and leadership skills that we would all benefit from. Many of our current projects, such as the firehouse, the A1A project, the sewage pipes, et cetera, John has been a part of. Personally, I met John when I was very concerned as a private citizen, which I still am, of all the accidents and deaths that were occurring on the Intercoastal Waterway. He was the commissioner that reached out to me and came to my house, and I took him for a boat ride and I showed him what was being done on the Intercoastal and how unsafe it was for boaters. And because of him, with Peggy Gossett, we were able to acquire our first Marine Patrol boat, which right now hasn't been hardly any accidents and no deaths since we acquired that. It keeps our residents safe, and the ICW is a much better place for John Shoemaker. I also work with John and many of my dune restoration projects, and he was actively involved with my beach turtle, my cleaning up the beaches, and of course, the Intercoastal. He also is the champions of the veterans in our town. And I would personally like to thank John for his service in Vietnam. It was amazing stories. One day you should listen to some of his stories. He's a true leader. The newly elected Commissioner Don Peters and Judith Goldberg, I congratulate, because we need their talents and their expertise, what they bring to this town. Also, back to John Shoemaker, he brings the experience, the continuity, and the passion that will help our community. I want the best for Highland Beach, and all you people in this room, in every one of these seats, I know that you want the best for Highland Beach. I congratulate the new commissioners, and I hope that you will consider John Shoemaker, and I disagree with Jack on that point. Thank you.
Thanks. Ron, go ahead.
Thank you. Ron Riami from Dalton Place, Polka Highlands. So I can't believe that how ignorant our FDOT people are. I mean, they just don't know, like 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet. I mean, I'm going to bring him some tape measures myself to those FDOT people. You got to be kidding me, Jack. So that's totally, when are you, I wanted you to talk to the people at FDOT with me, but you wouldn't do it. Anyway, I can assure you that Doug Hillman, who I was extremely close to, spent thousands of hours with, would endorse John Shoemaker. And as I spent the last few hours with Doug, he told me those kinds of things. And also just in his memory, one of the last things he said to me, and this is, for everybody here and out there, is if, do whatever you have to do that you'd like to do, because life is short. So I'd also like to congratulate our new commissioners. And I think that the town in general needs to support the commission. If you're concerned about the commissioners, then you ought to run for the commission. Shouldn't sit back with some off the wall organization that takes pot shots at the commission and only wants to endorse what they think is good for the town, not for really what the town thinks or the commission that we've elected. Let the commissioners who we've elected do their job unencumbered by anything out there in the community. And then if you don't like what they're doing, you can elect new ones. That's the way it should be run. Thank you.
Please state your name and where you live.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Chris Villegas and I live at the Clarendon in Highland Beach. I've spent 14 years here in Highland Beach in the wintertime, and I'm now a full-time resident. I'm grateful to our voters and welcome our two newly elected commissioners, Don Peters and Judy Goldberg. A lot has happened since the elections just last week. It is tragic that Mayor Hillman passed away, and it is a big loss to the community. We have to move forward from that election, and you have a choice as commissioners. Do you select a neutral person from the community, such as you already have, David Stern, who has represented our community as a neutral commissioner? It makes sense. Or do you select someone who was defeated by voters last week? Our two new commissioners were not elected out of voter apathy or a sense that all is going well in Highland Beach. Some suggest that this is the case, but they were elected because there were residential concerns. And so, yes, everyone's here for Highland Beach, but there are some concerns, and they were voiced in the fall at the referendums, and they're being voiced at the FDOT meetings. And I spoke with FDOT last week, and they said they do meetings where they could meet with the commission, have the public come, and also have them there to present. They have done that. And that is something that many of the voters would like to see. On the question of openness, I understand that there may have been efforts made to communicate with residents or another commissioner to support a candidate for the vice mayor position. You want to ask yourselves if those communications violate the Florida Sunshine Law. It prohibits two or more members of the same board from discussing public business outside of noticed meetings. Ask yourselves, did you receive a communication? Did you express your interest or lack of interest over a vice mayor position? I think we need to think about this if you're sitting on the commission. I hope the commission does the right thing, follows a prior procedure, places a neutral party in the vice mayor position. And I close with gratitude to our voters for electing two new commissioners who, together with the current commissioners, will have open meetings and hopefully set up ways to get inputs from residents. Thank you.
Yeah.
John Chapelier, 1015 Bel Air Drive. I got to know John Shoemaker during the recent election. I discovered he was an airborne ranger, which was pretty impressive to me. He's been extremely active in all the issues that I was concerned about. When we raised an issue, John would not only respond, but he would come over to our home. He would sit down and discuss these things. We were very concerned about the intercoastal, the waves, the dune restoration, and John was there and he cared. The idea that you need resumes, his resume speaks for itself. He's been here on the commission. He lost by a handful of votes. I mean, just a handful. It could just as easily have been him the winner. It wasn't enough difference to really matter. We only had 20% of the electorate show up in the first place. And the power of the direct mailers and budget that was put against some of the candidates just made it hard to win unless you did a $10,000 direct mail campaign. I'd just like to say that as far as I know, we talk about issues here. I don't know what the issues are. Everyone in this town wants the same thing. They want a good town, well-run. The firehouse, I don't think it's controversial anymore. The road widening, it's going to happen. It's going to be paid for, not by us. They have 100-foot right-of-way down the street. So at the end of the day, they could probably do whatever they want. The fact that we've talked them into only using about 30 feet of that right-of-way, I think is a good thing. John has been involved in all this every step of the way. And I can't imagine who else could possibly have those credentials. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter?
Let me know when I can start on the clock. Hi, my name is Dr. Peter Kosofsky. I live at Villanova. For the first time, I dipped my toe into the political waters, and I like to say that I came in fourth in a three-person race, and a distant fourth at that. I want to first thank Commissioner Shoemaker and Commissioner Stern for their service. I wish to congratulate Don Peters on his victory and also on Judith Goldberg on a resounding victory. And I know you will all do what is in the best interest of Highland Beach. And if you need my assistance, I'm there for you. The time to campaign is over. The time to come together, especially after the loss of our mayor, is far more important. I feel that having two new commissioners on and some commissioners that don't have a lot of time under their belt, that you're left with really two choices. And that would be, again, there'll be many choices to make, but you have John Shoemaker, who has my support because he has been here for 3 years and has done a fine job. And I can call John a friend, and I can also call Don Peters a friend. And I think they could work well together. Don Peters is my condominiums president, and we know each other also. And he is going to make a fine commissioner, as will Judith. And last but not least, late Mayor Hillman was very kind to spend several hours with me. When I decided to run, I wanted to make sure that I was up to date on everything that was going on in town. And our discussion went from town politics to life in general. He was extremely generous, thoughtful, and the best compliment I could give is that the time we spent together and our discussions reminded me of discussions I had with my father. And there's no better compliment that I can say is that you reminded me of my late father. Thank you.
Well, if there are no additional comments, next is the approval of the agenda. And I do have a change I'd like to make to the agenda, just to switch the order to have the discussion of the filling of the vacant mayor commissioner seat, item 10, to come after the swearing in and seating of the newly elected, and then to do the forecast model. So if we could have a motion to approve the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, next item is declaring the general election results. And
You have them before you with the resolution. Our two canvassing board members are here, so I'll leave detailed discussions to you two and or to the clerk as it relates to that resolution.
You have the official results on the dais.
Any discussion on the resolution?
No.
I think the official results speak for themselves, quite frankly.
Yes.
They have been certified by not only the Highland Beach Canvassing Board, but by the Supervisor of Election. And we can read them into the record if you want, but I can't imagine that we wouldn't approve them.
And as a member of the canvassing board, there was no discrepancies, and I concur that these results should be accepted as presented. So can we have a motion for the resolution, please?
I move we approve resolution number 2023-006.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Declaration of the general election. Okay, so we have this. Oh, I have it twice for some reason.
No, it's slightly different.
This is just a formality to recognize the mayor did run unopposed, so
Okay.
his position
Okay.
exists. Yeah.
Okay, it looks the same, so, but it's actually a little bit different. So item 6, declaring the general election results, resolution number 2023-007, a resolution of the town commission of the town of Highland Beach, Florida, declaring an unopposed candidate elected to office and providing for an effective date. Any discussion on that? Okay, we could have a motion, please.
I move we accept resolution number 2023-007.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is to have comments from outgoing officials, and first is for John Shoemaker, and I wanted to present you with this certificate of appreciation for the time that you served. It has been a pleasure working with you, and your contributions were extremely valuable. So I present this certificate.
Thank you. Okay, well, it's very nice. So first of all, my reaction is, look at this. We've not had a group like this in this chambers in 3 years that I've been on the dais. So I would urge you to continue coming and participating in the process, rather than only have 1, 2, I think we got up to maybe 5 residents at one time. That was in 3 years. So we need your input. Otherwise, we fall victim to gossip, who said, he said, she said, whatever, and you don't really get to the facts or understand the real issues and the rest of the story versus an agenda versus a personalized story. Okay, for me, I'd like to take just 5 minutes here and say, life for me started with college and then my desire to serve the country. During time of war at UMass Amherst, when everybody was going to Canada, the Peace Corps, anywhere but in the military, I volunteered. I really wanted to help save American lives. After that, I survived. I came back, started a family, and a business career where my objective at that point was create jobs through IPOs, through small and startup businesses in the high technology sector. I think I was successful after 45 years. So what did I do? I retired and said, how can I be of service? So I did run for an election. I prepared to run a campaign, but nobody ran against me. So I guess that is a good or a bad thing, but I was pleased to serve for the next 3 years. During that time, honestly, supporting the commission and the mayor, I don't know of anything that we did that was wrong, that you could say, that's terrible, you shouldn't have done that. I think we really did come together as a commission to serve the interests of the community and to deliver, not just talk about it, and not talk about it with acrimony. As we see with other towns, the level of acrimony, dissension, fighting, bitterness, nastiness is ridiculous. It shouldn't happen in this country, but it does. So it's been my pleasure. It gave me a chance to leverage my lifetime of skill development, which is always great to do in your closing years. Most of the first year on the dais is about learning. There's all kinds of rules, government regulations, sunshine laws. The new commissioners will learn all of the restrictions, what you can't say, what you can't talk to each other, and all of this sort of thing. It's very difficult for us. We're going to find that out, and you'll see it in the referendums that will be done in the future, because we can't promote anything. All we can do is give you a sentence, and you have to interpret it. We can't educate you. That's the law. All right. So I'm proud of the team. I look back at the water tower, the water plant, and what that commission did at that time. That is the single most incredible project that we've done as a town. I don't know how the heck they got approval, how they got it financed, how they could move this forward, but they did it. I think the second most important success that we've had is that fire EMS project, especially given it was a result after 30 years of a contract that was flawed and has left us now with a potential litigation, has left us with a situation where the state has to get involved. We think that they've overbilled us by as much as $1 million. We've been paying and overpaying for years. Nobody would do anything about it until the leadership of Doug Hillman and this commission took it on, because it was a can that was easy to kick down the road and avoid it. I must remember Doug as providing the leadership, the camaraderie, the vision, the guidance, notes that I've made here, that created a spirit of collaboration and decisive productivity in a government setting, which is incredible by itself, especially in these days. It's not enough to have good intentions. Trust me, from my heart, everything I've said and done was meant with good intentions. But it's also making the hard decisions to deliver on intentions so that it's real. Otherwise, it's just talk. It's just bureaucratic nonsense, and it's groupthink. Okay. I think, unfortunately, we've heard that even this commission can be threatened with the idea of controversy. Don't give us controversy. In fact, we have to make some tough decisions, and that's what you are asking us to do. The committee is the commission, and this commission is the commission to serve, not save Highland Beach. It is the commission to serve Highland Beach in the best way possible, to deliver on ideas, to deliver on actions with results. Yeah, I could talk about the fire station, the building with Delray, FDOT, RRR, the zoning that will be coming up at some point. All I can say is right now, I am so proud to have worked with a team, Evelyn, Natasha, Dave, certainly Doug, the town manager, the whole town management team, Marshall, Glenelda, our lawyer, Glenn DeCivia. We have I hope the chief is still here. Oh, he's hiding behind the pillar. And Chief Joseph, where are you, Chief? Our new fire chief. You should talk with him. He's our new fire chief. And pretty soon we're gonna all be outside, with breaking ground and starting a whole new chapter in the Highland Beach story. I endorse Natasha to be the next mayor. She has the smarts, She has enough experience. She has the passion and the commitment to do it. At the same time, I hope I haven't forgotten those in the town management team, David, Eric, and Teresa, and all of you have done so much. I will gladly serve the town in the future as needed, as requested. I would immediately like to continue supporting veterans. I will continue to meet with them at their homes, write stories about their escapades, and deliver it to you in ways that will keep you involved to know who your neighbors are and what they've done, because some of these people are true heroes. And it's not just veteran heroes. I hope to expand it to be other heroes of Highland Beach and their stories. So I love Highland Beach. I give you my heart and my love. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next, Commissioner Stern, thank you very much for your service. And we've really enjoyed having you as part of this commission the last 6 months. Really appreciate you stepping in, and we present you with a certificate of appreciation.
Thank you very much. I think John took my speech. I really would like to thank the commission for appointing me to the open commissioner job. It was a terrific experience. Working with Marshall and his whole staff was excellent, very professional staff, I must say. With all my business experience, I can tell you these folks are class A. I hope to continue offering my help to the town in any way. As most of you know, I've chaired the Financial Advisory Board, the Code Enforcement Board, the Board of Adjustment Appeals. I've lived in the town for over 21 years, and I'd like to offer anything I can to help the town. So it's been a wonderful experience. I also, of course, would like to congratulate Judith Goldberg and Don Peterson in their election. And I'm sure this commission will be, however it ends up, will be A1. Thank you all very much.
The next item on the agenda, I want to congratulate, huge congratulations to Judith Goldberg and Don Peters. It is with great honor to swear them in and have them seat as newly elected officials. So, Town Clerk, if you could start with. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, Judith Goldberg.
Thank you.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Judith Goldberg,
I, Judith Goldberg,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will
that I will
support, protect, and defend
support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and the government of the United States
the Constitution and government of the United States
and of the state of Florida
and of the state of Florida
against all enemies, domestic or foreign,
against all enemies, domestic and foreign,
and that I will bear true faith, loyal, and allegiance to the same.
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
A loyalty.
and loyalty to the same.
And I am entitled to hold office
And I am entitled to hold office
under the Constitution of the United States
of the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of Florida,
and the Constitution of the state of Florida,
and that I will
and that I will
faithfully perform all the duties
faithfully perform all the duties
of the office of Commissioner
of the office of Commissioner
on which I am about to enter.
on which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I gotta read it too. Yeah, your right hand, stand in the mic so they can.
Okay.
I, Don Peters,
I, Don Peters,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and the government of the United States
the Constitution and government of the United States
and of the state of Florida
and of the state of Florida
against all enemies, domestic or foreign,
against all enemies, domestic or foreign,
and that I will bear true
and that I will bear true
faith,
faith,
loyalty,
loyalty,
and allegiance to the same.
and allegiance to the same.
And I am entitled to hold office
And I am entitled to hold office
under the Constitution of the United States
under the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of Florida,
and the Constitution of the state of Florida,
and that I will faithfully perform
and that I will faithfully perform
all the duties of the office
all the duties of the office
of Commissioner on which I'm about.
Commissioner, which I am about to enter. So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So now.
If the new commissioners could come, please take their seats. Welcome to the dais. Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
Was it something I said?
Well, I just wanted to say, welcome aboard Commissioner Goldberg and Commissioner Peters. Congratulations. And from the both of us, we welcome you and look forward to working with you. And Commissioner David, I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to say.
Absolutely. I look forward to carrying on the work that has started and anything else that may come up along the way, which I'm sure there will be many issues. So, thank you.
And there's always a big thing that happens with, new commissioners. I know that happened with me. And so with the next item, discussion of the filling of the vacant mayor commissioner with the vacant seat until the next regular election. So I guess what I thought we could do is discuss some thoughts on how to fill the seat. Obviously, there's many different ways that we can fill the vacant seat. And I'd be interested, and we would all be interested in discussing it. Obviously, the vacant seat will ultimately be filled by a vote of the four of us, and it needs to be a majority. And the vacant seat would be filled until the next election, which is about a year from now. So, Evelyn, if you want to go ahead and kick us off.
Yeah, we have gotten feedback from a number of people regarding a number of candidates. And I think that this is not a decision for today. I believe that we should give other members of the public the opportunity to recommend somebody, that we will look at resumes and that we will then interview people. And this has been my thought from as soon as I knew we were going to have a second seat to fill. So this is not something that happened today. I always felt that it needs to be open, it needs to be above board, and then we will take a vote.
Commissioner Peters?
I agree with Evelyn.
There you go.
I agree with Evelyn. I think we shouldn't jump at this, and I like the way the commission did it last time, and I think we should follow suit and do primarily the same thing.
Okay, thank you.
We just have to remember we have a time limit this time.
Yes, I know that.
Commissioner Goldberg.
Thank you. I concur with the caveat. It's my understanding that we must take action and fill the position within 30 days. So, and I also understand, I think that Commissioner Peters, you're going away for brief pre-planned scheduled vacation. So I think we should look at the calendar and see when we can vote, because if we are looking what is the time frame? If we're going to allow, say, 5 days for comments and submission of intents and resumes, we would then notice the next meeting. If in fact we only have 3 seating commissioners, then it has to be unanimous. Correct?
Has to be in the majority. So there's 4 of us. It has to be the majority. So yes, 3 of the.
But if Commissioner Peters is away on a particular date within the time frame,
There's always Zoom.
there's always Zoom. So I just think that should be a consideration for the time frame. And also, I think it would benefit the commission that we act promptly with contemplation and consideration, so that we can move forward quickly
Glenn,
with the work of the commission.
I'm sorry. I have a question of Glenn. I know we are no longer allowed to hold commission meetings via Zoom based on the government's mandate. I am also under the impression that even though a commissioner who is not here can in fact join us via Zoom, they cannot vote via Zoom.
Actually, they can vote, but they do not count for a quorum. So at least 3 of you would have to be physically here.
Mhm.
So as long as there were 3 physically here, the 4th member could actually vote by Zoom.
Then
There's
thank you.
some clarification.
Yeah,
as the
no,
COVID
yeah,
has
absolutely,
evolved.
because I have heard different things. So that's why I wanted the clarification. Thank you. That may help things considerably.
Well, can we talk about availability? I would also be interested in taking action quickly. I think a lot of people are aware of the vacancy and have already expressed interest, and it has already been on their mind. Can we look at the calendar? I also heard that you, Commissioner Peters, will be out of town for some time. So how long are you available? If we were to call a special meeting, would you be available before your trip?
Yeah, I'm going away Monday.
Monday,
to-
okay.
Yeah, to the, for 8 days.
So is Friday of this week an opportunity
Yes.
for all of us to meet at 1:30?
Yes.
Excellent.
Does
Excellent.
that meet our notice requirements?
Yes, Glenn will always kick me and say 72. You could do it quicker than that, but he lives in the comfort zone of 72 hours. So we could meet as early as Friday, or with the 30 days, we could go on the backside of that timeline too. But I understand the comfort to get somebody seated because we have some big decisions to make over the next couple of meetings. So, we can work either way. Staff's here to support. So whatever you all need.
It is my preference. And of course, everyone else has their preference, can discuss it, but to take action as quickly as possible. So if everyone is available on Friday, I would suggest that we tell everyone who would be interested to submit their letter of interest to the town and so that all their letters of interest would be due. When is a good, would it be as late as Friday
If
or?
you're going to meet Thursday, you're going to meet Friday, about 1:30? Would that be your?
So
preference?
we'd like to meet at 1:30. So that way you don't have to think about what time our meetings are. So I would recommend, if everyone is available, that we call a special meeting for Friday at 1:30. And thank you for accommodating us, Commissioner Peters, considering you'll be busy getting ready for your trip. I ask that everyone express their interest, and then we can do the method that we did recently that I thought went very well in November when we appointed Commissioner Stern, where we got the ability to review everyone's background, ask our questions, and then the commissioners take a vote. And then, of course, the majority vote is how we appoint the commissioner.
So if I could paraphrase, so we're going to meet Friday. What is that? The
24th.
24th. Okay. Can't get this. So what we'll do is then maybe Thursday, COB, close of business. Everybody has to have that to the clerk's office. And then we can get that to you Thursday evening. So you at least have Thursday evening through Friday morning to prepare. And then you could interview those that are there. Those that are interested have to be here Friday at 1:30. So, you know, that's something we usually require. So you're physically present for the interview to sit the commission. We'll send out something this evening on the email, and we'll post the notice by the close of business today. That would also indicate these requirements on the bulletin boards that we have as well, and on the website. So
Do you need a motion?
motion would be great.
Okay. I move that we hold a special meeting on Friday, the 24th at 1:30 to select a new commissioner from those people who have expressed interest by close of business on Thursday, the 23rd.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Excellent.
Madam Mayor, because I just want to clarify that is sufficient notice. I know Marshall says that I'm a little conservative on these things, but under these circumstances, certainly, and it's being publicly announced today, the clerk's going to have it out there immediately and it'll be on the website. So I think you do have sufficient notice for that meeting.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, moving on, financial forecast model. I believe David will be presenting that item.
We're really excited about this. I know David is. So please entertain David as he's worked really hard on putting this together and what kind of kicks off our budget season. So as we note, for those keeping score at home, this was on our strategic priorities plan. And the idea, we asked David to put together a 5-year forecast of all of our expenditures, revenue sources, project that over a period of time based on best practice. And that begins to serve as our starting point for our annual budget process. So moving forward, this type of presentation from David will kick off our preliminary budget discussions. Our budgets then begin our process internally in May. And then we get into June, July, August, and September, where you hold your public meetings. We get the FAB involved. And then we hold our public hearings for the tentative maximum daily millage rate. And then we do the public hearings to close. So, and again, what's really good on this, and again, this is a preview. We could spend, at least David and I could spend 8 hours on it. So those that are really into the numbers side of it, there's a lot here. So he's going to kind of give you that preview over it. And again, one of the biggest overriding things that we wanted to do was the thing that we've heard from commissions before and from the residents is that stabilization of our millage rate to keep, again, we are one of the lowest tax rates. Manalapan's hard to keep up with because they're so small. But we are there at the for a full service community, we have, I believe, the lowest tax rate. Naturally, we have the third lowest, but for a full service community, we do have the lowest tax rate. And our idea is to maintain that over time. So it's consistent, known as we move forward. So David.
All right. Well, thank you.
You got a crowd today, buddy.
Yeah, I know. First of all, thank you for everyone coming. Welcome, commissioners. Pleasure to serve you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to stop by my office, call me, walk you through. And so let's, at the direction of the leadership before this, under Mayor Hillman, as well as the town manager, it's important to have long-term goals, long-term strategic thinking. There's going to be a lot of moving parts happening. There's going to be a lot of things happening here within the next 18 months. So anyway, the idea is we needed to build a financial forecast of where we think we're going to be. Now, government accounting is a little bit different than businesses. There are a lot of similarities, don't get me wrong, but there's a little bit different
in the way you go about calculating things. And so what we did is we set up goals based on our 5-year. This only has to do with the general fund. So keep in mind that we have a general fund, we have a water fund that's separate, we have a sewer fund that's separate, we've got a building department fund that's separate. This is only the general fund. And so what we did is we usually categorize all of our expenditures, right, in between salaries, wages, and related, operating expenses, capital outlay, debt service. Okay, those are the main groups of expenditures, okay, that we have here. Then we also have other revenues. Now you may be sitting there thinking to yourself, well, it seems like you're going backwards. You know, shouldn't we focus on revenues first and then work down? That's one of the little differences. It's one of the little nuances of governmental accounting is we start with our expenditures first. What do we need to operate? And then we look at our other revenues. Now, typically our other revenues outside of ad valorem taxes, historically, they're about 25% of our total revenue. So if you look at all of our revenues, 100%, 25% is typically that other revenues. Well, what is that other revenue? Well, they're franchise fees, sales tax, all that other stuff that comes from the state of Florida. There's alcohol tax, right? There's tax on all this stuff. Well, if it happens inside of Highland Beach, the state of Florida then sends us our portion of it. And so there's also charges for services, which would be the garbage, you know, things like that. And so as you can see here, that 25%, that's about the makeup there. Historically, 10% comes from franchise fees, about 5% of that 25% comes from charges for services, rents. You see some cell tower leases on our water thing, right? Verizon or whoever, they pay us to put things up on there. And then you have 10% is other stuff, grants and other revenues. And then the final thing you have there is property value growth. So we looked at all these things, okay? So starting from 30,000 feet up, the very first thing we looked at is we said, well, we need to look at salaries and wages. How is that going to move over the next 5 years? Keep in mind that historically, out of all of our expenditures, salaries and wages and related, which includes FICA taxes, retirement contribution, health insurance, workers' compensation, all that stuff is included in salaries and wages in that bracket. That totals about 32% of our whole expenditures, 32% historically. And so what we did here is we said, okay, let's establish some baselines. So we said, you know what, we're going to assume for the next 5 years, it's not set in stone. Obviously, none of this is set in stone. Every year, a budget has to come before the commission and it has to be voted on by them. But this is just for planning. And so what we have is we got 5%. We figured 5% annual increases in salaries and wages, FICA tax. We all know that, the Social Security and Medicare. Retirement contribution that we use 2 to 4%. That's kind of the increase. Health insurance is a big one, right? Health insurance costs. Everyone's hearing about health insurance costs. And so there on the bottom there, I just showed you what I did as part of some of the assumptions is I said, you know what, we know that prices are rising. We just don't know how long that's going to last for. So as you can see here, what I did here is I declined it a little bit over time. Started out at health insurance, 15% increase, 15%, and then I dropped it down 13%, 11%, trying to be conservative yet accurate. And so the very first line that we had in all those buckets was salaries, which remember about historically 32%. Then what we did is we looked at operating expenditures. So now we're done with salaries and wages. Now we looked at operating expenditures. Well, what's included in operating? Well, you can see professional fees, IT, operating supplies, contractual services, and I don't know if you knew this, but of our operating expenditures, 38%, thank you for the clarification, historically was the Delray Fire and Rescue contract. And so at the end of the day, we took all that, and you can see there in the years, in the future years going across, I escalated certain things based on the data that I was seeing from the Department of Labor and Statistics. So we just kind of, we kind of took those expenditure lines and we ran forward with them. Now, so step one, we looked at salaries. We escalated that to what we thought it would be. Step two, we looked at operating expenses. We escalated that based on these assumptions. Step three, what's the other thing? Well, the other thing is like capital. See, in all these different departments, you can see the departments there on the left-hand side, we all spend, capital dollars. Someone's computer breaks down, the fax machine. I don't even know if we have a fax machine anymore, but anyways, but what I'm saying is, capital stuff, someone needs a new chair. I don't know. But, typically the capital stuff is those things that are like 5 years, you get a useful life out of them for 5 years, a podium or a sound system, things like that. So what I did here is I looked at our 5 year in the past, looked at 5 years. I said, okay, what did we do? So, and then what I did is I got our numbers together. I indexed all the numbers to be kind of in line with our discretionary sales tax fund dollars that we get for capital related expenditures. And then what I did there is I indexed that 5 years. So I said, okay, every 5 years or every year, it's going to grow by 5%. Okay. So these right here are all the assumptions that I did. Again, just to recoup, we looked at salaries and wages. We looked at operating expenditures. We gave it a reasonable conservative estimate of what costs were going to grow over the next by year over the next 5 years. And then that was the recap. And then what I did is I said, oh yeah, we have to put in a fire department. Right? And so anyway, so this is what we did here. On the top there, we know our expenditures. We know that our capital expenditure right now is going to be about $10.5 million. And then what I did, typically what you do in the finance world is you take that cost and you compare that to the net present value of the savings. And so that's what I did here. I took our cost, we got our architecture, we got our construction, we've got our equipment and all that other stuff. And then what I did is I compared that.
I'm sorry, that's not, my apologies to this gentleman, he deserves that.
No, I get extra time. Thank you. And so then what I did is I said, okay, the way you determine if a capital project makes sense, and it's very important, is you look at, you've probably heard this all in your finance classes, you look at the net present value of the future savings, right? And you look at, well, when do we think that's going to pay for itself? Okay. And so that's what we did here. We looked at what the cost of doing the fire department's going to be. And we compared that to the estimated savings. Well, you might ask the question that I put down there at the very bottom. Well, how did you determine the estimated net annual benefit? What did you compare that against? Well, I compared that against the historical amount that this town has been paying Delray for their contract. So here you can see, I think lines 11 through 27. So lines 11 through 27 are your historical costs that we've been paying to Delray. I took an average of what the annual escalation is. I added 1.5% as a conservative estimated amount for inflation Okay. Then I moved that forward. So I took that amount and assumed that that's going to continue into the future. And then what I did is I compared that against what? I compared that against, oh, let me go back. Sorry. I compared that against what the present value of our fire department's budget's going to be. Now, you may say, well, man, how can that be? Well, you can see there in the second bullet point, right? Evaluating the fire rescue project, right? In terms of the net present value savings. Staff estimates that that the project will provide a positive net present value within 6 years. And the reason why that is because historically, what I've learned from examining the Delray contract versus what our costs would be working with our new fire chief is that typically between, I think that's 3 to 9, we've been paying 3 to 9% higher labor wages than what the market would typically compare. On top of that, the Delray contract has a 5% overhead that they get to charge us on top of that. And then they get to charge us 5% more for profit. So at the end of the day, I calculated everything, came across all these numbers, and I said, you know what? Yeah, my best estimate at this point in time is that not only are we going to gain control over our own fire department, but my best estimate is based on the net present value savings. We're going to break even in about 6 years.
And if I could just interject, that is consistent with the feasibility study that it was done a different way, but I like that you kind of converge to similar numbers.
Yep.
That feasibility study did estimate savings, between $1 and $2 million a year. So I really like this updated version because it has actual numbers. And I guess one question with the Delray costs, does it include the additional firefighter that they wanted to add?
Thank you.
It does
And
include it?
yes, and you can see there, I put a little bullet point. I can't see that far. I used to be able to, but you can see there that number 3, bullet point 3 there, I put Delray contract increased by an estimated $600,000 for additional positions in the new contract in year 2024. So that's why you can see there it jumps up 19%.
Okay, so 2020, okay, that's where it is. All
Yep.
right, I wasn't sure if it was in the 20, okay.
Yep.
So yes, so going forward,
Yeah.
we would have had to pay for an additional staff member had
Yep.
we stayed in with Delray. So I think that's also
Yeah.
another critical point. So
Absolutely.
I'm pleased to see that this is consistent with the feasibility study that we did a couple of years ago.
Yep.
And that these savings are
Achievable.
continue to show despite all the inflation that, we've had and all that.
That's correct. And then on top of that, guess what else? I even included our debt service payments that we need, right? Because if everyone recalls, we took out a loan for $5 million, right? To build the new fire department. So included in all of these costs, labor, operations, capital, now debt service, you have to add all these things in there. And oh, by the way, the commission was so awesome at how they projected their leadership. We closed on this loan almost 9 months ago. The interest rate was 3.26%, right? Well, in 9 months, that increased 2.11% more if I were to close on it today. Okay, so forward thinking, from my experience, just a great commission, and it will continue to be so. But at the end of the day, we had to take all these different costs into consideration, okay, in building a 5-year budget. So here is my Highland Beach, 5-year budget. Now, here's the other thing too, that the bottom half of it, that is our labor. So what we did is we estimated how many positions we're going to need based on what the fire chief said. We included 10% overtime. Okay. We included all their benefits. Where did I get these numbers from? Well, I got them from other fire departments, what their benefits usually run and things like that. How many positions? Oh, do you remember that Delray was going to charge us more for more positions? Because right now I think they have 22 and a half FTEs. Oh, we're going to have 27. So we're going to get more control, more labor at a reduced cost, and it's going to pay for itself in an estimated six years. And so again, had to take all that into consideration. Let me speed it up. I'm getting the hand sign. Sorry. Yeah, gotcha. So, sorry, I'm almost done. You don't have to leave yet. I'm almost done. But what I'm saying is, so here's what I did. I took all of those data points, right? I escalated everything that we just talked about. I tried to look at all the different calculation, what's going to be involved and so on and so forth. And so here is my budget forecast, which summarizes it. But here's the interesting thing. See, I highlighted in green. Okay. See how our personnel services, which is labor and related, versus our operating. Remember, operating was heavily weighted on the Delray contract for fire. See how it goes? See how it switches there? Well, see, the reason for the switch is because we're no longer paying Delray's contract prices. Now we're going to staff it ourselves. So you can see there the ratios there. The other thing too, which is interesting that I found, interfund transfers. Interfund transfers are transfers out to other funds. Well, as the commission has been working to stabilize those funds to be able to stand on their own, you can see interfund transfers going down. So the reason why I had to get all that information was to be able to get to this point here to say, okay, what do I think other revenues are going to do? Again, look back 5 years to see what our other revenues were going to do. I indexed the estimated amount of revenue. Look, we're not going to get, and there's going to be zero growth in alcohol beverage taxes or licenses. You know what I mean? And things like that. So I took all of the individual ones there. You can see the method that I used, whether historical growth, whether to be conservative, and said, you know what, it's going to grow by this percentage and then it's going to go down just to be conservative. Okay. So I had to take all that into consideration. Now, other revenue, just to make sure I can balance my numbers, to make sure my numbers are good. Other revenue versus property taxes. There's always this ratio, right? I wanted to make sure that our ratio was 75-25, right? 25% of our funds come from other revenues, 75% from property taxes. And so when we plug all the numbers in, oh, the big spike there that you see there in those 2 middle years, well, that's when we're transitioning from our current fire contract to our new employees. We're going to be balancing 2 fire departments. So we've pulled $4 million from our general fund that we reserved, commission approved it. And so that's where those other funds are. That's where we're pulling that other money from. So anyway, when I look at the entire project here that we put together, I wanted to make sure that I kind of kept that ratio of 25% of our revenue is other funds, 75% is ad valorem taxes. Okay, so I put a little time out here because that's a lot to digest. The reason why it's a lot to digest is this. If you look at the very bottom, here's the formula to try to get to ad valorem taxes. Ad valorem taxes, or what ad valorem taxes need to be, is your expenditures minus your other revenue equals ad valorem / reserve need. Okay, because that's what I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to understand how much ad valorem revenue do I need? And so when I look at actuals, there on the left-hand side is actuals. There's my formula. You probably can't see it. I probably should have done a different color, but you can see like actual expenditures are on top, are the top buckets there, minus other revenue equals on the bottom, equals ad valorem reserve amount needed. The reason why it has to balance, So, but how do you determine what your ad valorem taxes are going to be unless you know what property values are going to do? How are you going to determine that? I'm glad you asked. So what we did is, so here's what we did. We looked at the last 5 years of property taxes and we looked at the growth of it. We saw that in the first year we looked at it was like 4.7%. The next year it was 2 point whatever percent. Next year 3 point whatever percent. This last year it was 13 point. I can't see that far. I know it was almost. Yeah, I know. Sorry, I got you. So, but anyway, so what did I do? I'm not going to assume that property values are going to grow at 14% per year into the next 5 years. Of course, I would never do that to you, right? Of course I would. But again, the goal number 2. First goal was estimate what our 5-year budget's going to be. Goal number 2 is, well, we need to maintain our ad valorem millage at the current 3.5875. So I said, okay. So what I did is I said, okay, instead of 13 point whatever percent that is, I'm going to assume that in a few months, property values are only going to grow by half of that. Let me be conservative and say half. So 6 point whatever percent I have in there. I can't see that far. But anyway, I'm going to assume that year 1, it's going to go in half. And then for the next future 4 years, it's only going to grow at 2.5%. To be conservative. That's all I want to be. Okay. So when I look at all that and I plug in, so again, what you're looking at is the final model. So what it says is, it says the budget forecast assumes the following: property value growth, 2024, 6.84%, half of the prior year. And then 25 through 28, only 2.5% growth, right? The goal is to maintain a millage rate at 3.5875. If property values grow at a conservative rate of 2.5% after 2024, okay? And the general fund expenditures, all those expenditures that I told you, this one went up, this one went down, this is what I anticipated. If you aggregate all of those, if the general fund budget doesn't exceed 7% annually, we can maintain the millage rate. The goal is to have this millage rate gap. What I mean is this: during good times, when property values exceed the 2.5%, right? We put that in what we would call like a rate stabilization fund, because we're not assuming that that's going to go on forever, but we want to maintain our millage rate. And so what we can do is during high property value months, we can keep those funds, keep the millage rate the same. And as long as our expenses don't grow beyond 7%, we don't have to touch the millage rate. Because in the latter years, when inflation starts to exceed our property values, then we still don't have to raise the millage rate. The reason why is because in the good years, we've reserved those funds to use in the latter years. And so when we look at it, and I'm almost done, I promise you. When we look at it, we also looked at our fund balance, okay, which is a good indication of cash. Okay, it's a good indication of that. So you can see like in the good years, the first 2 years there, we're building our fire department, right? We're taking money from our reserve account, we're putting it towards the fire department. We have a loan going on, and you can see the downshift there in our fund balance. Well, that's because we would have pulled $4 million out of our reserves to build the fire station. And so at the end of the day, we'll get through year one, which will be our transition period will be over. So this year and half of next year will be our transition period. After that, when we get into year two, that's when we're standing alone. We're no longer tied to Delray. We're operating our own fire department, more control, more staff, more reliability, and we're looking good. So in summary, I've assumed property value growth at 2.5% or better after 2024. Other revenues continue to maintain that ratio. And as long as our overall general fund budget doesn't exceed 7%, then our current forecast indicates that we can maintain a millage rate of 3.5875 per year and continue to maintain and build back our healthy reserves after pulling down the $4 million. So. This is for the commission. If you have, I guess we have a time afterwards, but.
We can take public comment, right? Sure. Yeah, we can take public comment. Oh, but you have to come up to the podium, say your name and say where you live. We'll comment after them. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jay Rathman. I actually don't technically live here. She's one of my best friends. I spend lots of time with her. And I'm just curious, because I'm a financial person too. Assuming a 6.7% increase in property value this year, you don't think that's pretty aggressive when interest rates are over 8% right now and the market's slowing tremendously? That could negatively affect property value.
Well, I'll answer that. Basically, if the commission recalls, we had the property appraiser here. And what Dorothy was saying is again, it closes out in January. So most of that closeout year, you're taking sales from pre-acceleration of the interest rate. So we'll get a bunch of sales and transactions that occurred before the mortgage rates really got a little wicked on us. So we can kind of balance that out. So she's anticipating, as David is, as her team, we'll see a half of a really good year and a half of a kind of a fizzled out real estate market kind of balanced. That's when we say the next year thereafter, we're saying 2.5%. It's going to be pretty consistent. Right. Luckily, with us staying on the water, there's only so much. So that really helps us a lot, insulates us a little bit more than other places.
Yeah. And then the only other question I have is in the beginning, you were talking about expenses, just operating expenses in general going down every year. I don't ever remember a period of time where things were getting less and less expensive as years go on. It always goes higher.
The escalation in rate.
Right.
Not necessarily the expenses, the rate of escalation.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying.
But you're saying, but essentially you're saying things are getting less expensive.
No, I'm saying the rate of increase. So let me give you an example.
Got
it. And that's actually a very good question, but let me just go back here and let me show you. So, so this is perfect. So let's see, contractual service.
Okay.
I assume a 12% growth in year one.
Right.
12% growth in year two. Year three, 10% growth.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So questions, go ahead, Judith. Can you put your microphone on, please?
David, I want to compliment you on your presentation, and it's very clear. So I just wanted to draw attention to the fire rescue project on the expenses. So the mandate was at 10 million. And I see that it's 10.5. But it's important that everyone know that 500,000 is not ad valorem taxes.
You are
Not
correct.
paying more taxes. That's from a grant.
Yeah.
And can you expand on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, the idea is that we had funds from the ARPA dollars from the federal grant. We wanted to, prices escalated so much. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Dave.
My time's up. No, so the idea is that we can utilize some of the ARPA funds for this project.
So this presentation, however, does not discuss, as you originally said, certain finances are not taken up here. So that fund was, it has to be used within a certain amount of time, and we can choose what projects. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other question I have is that with respect to the dispute with Del Rey and the true ups that is in contention, among other things, is that, do you account anywhere in this in this display for the true ups, or is it so minimum not to put it in?
No, again, I always approach things, I like to be wrong in the right direction, right? So I would like to overstate my expenditure forecast, right? And understate my amount of revenue I'm going to bring in. So I did not include any true up dollars that we could potentially get,
Or pay.
to the force class.
Or have to pay. We don't know conclusively what the result will be yet until there's discovery and review analysis.
Well, from our team's review, I'm hard pressed to think there'll be a lot of outflow versus the inflow.
Excellent.
I hard pressed.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Peters, do you have anything?
David, great job. I like that 6-year for the fire department, and it shows it's coming to what we said in the beginning is coming to effect. And I like that, being an ex-cop, you got more firemen. So to prevent overtime and, the budget is, I know being a cop, everybody's looking for overtime and it makes the budget go up. And I'm glad you did that. Great job, David.
Commissioner David.
Yeah, I have to parrot that. Also, thank you for not making it boring. Because numbers like this can be pretty dry. And this is a great segue into when we look at the actual budgets and look at the actual departments.
Absolutely.
And we have, in fact, you're absolutely right. We have tried very hard to keep our millage rate stable.
Yeah.
And not so that we are pretty much a full service town.
Oh, absolutely.
And it is not easy to keep it stable when we are providing a lot of services.
Yeah.
And there are other smaller towns that the rate may be less, but they are not providing all those services.
And what we'll use this for is we'll use this, this will be a rolling 5 years. You know what I mean? So we'll update it. So we'll see how, again, it's a target. It's really an exercise in, did I think of everything? There are a lot of assumptions in this. Okay. And so, at the end of the day, did I put thought into what's going to go up, what's going to go down, what ifs, and where does that put us? So, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, excellent presentation, David. Thank you for this. And I think what, in my opinion, the real value of this is you don't want to make a 1-year decision when you're not quite sure what the impact is on year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5. And so, because some things that seem kind of obvious in the coming year, the picture can be clarified if we can look going forward. And I do agree with you to put the more conservative type assumptions. I think some of these, could be up or down, but I think the putting in conservatism into the projections and then updating the projections each year as actual data becomes available. I guess one question is, and I don't know if I missed it somewhere, you've taken a look at the investments on the cash. So we have a lot of cash on hand. And in the past, we haven't earned a lot of investment income. And I know you coming on board, you've taken a closer look at that. Is that in your projections? Is there an estimate of investment income on that cash?
Yeah, there is, investment income is small. Again, I wanted to be conservative, right? So I just assumed like a zero growth, now we're going to use.
Are we getting, but we are getting.
Yeah, no, yeah, we are.
From the position, as we discussed at our last budget, where we weren't in the right spaces or the right vehicles for those dollars, Dave and I met and he worked with our other side of the house and our consultants to make sure we were in the appropriate vehicles, at least returned. We can't invest in anything, but in the more conservative things that at least we're returning funds, and we started doing better, putting it in prime. We have a laddered approach. Mr. Stern in the back always preached this, the laddering. So we've looked at that along with, how much of our monies can be at so many days out, not be liquid. So that helped us generate a little bit of money.
So the investment income is not included in the projections, but you're maximizing what we can do. So that might be maybe an opportunity. I'm glad that you're doing it that way.
Yes.
Like I said, I would much prefer it to be conservative, but I'm also glad that you're making progress in improving our investment income.
Absolutely.
Because we do have a lot of money as, cash on hand.
Yep.
So I think that's really good.
Yep.
So I was really very much looking forward to your presentation today because this was very heavy as far as understanding all this. So I guess as we go through the budget process, we'll refer to this as we make.
This becomes our backbone of our budget to say, here's what we were planning forward. So then we work back with all of our department heads and start coming up with what do they need? And then they have the guide rails, if you will. So when they start asking this and that, another component that's going to come to us is going to be the CIP for the water and sewer facilities. Those are going to be expanded. We're going to get a little better handle on those, but it will be something we both like the budget process that we've been using for the last 5 years, which is we start with a presentation and then we tweak it based on your guidance. And as better and more information becomes available, and we tend to, again, the level of conservatism, we keep it that way. So I do not want to have to ask you to raise taxes.
Right.
Nothing turns my stomach quicker than having to go to commissioners. Can we meet somewhere? Hey, we're going to raise taxes. And then everybody goes crazy. So we plan so we don't have to get there.
And if we're ever tempted to lower taxes, we can look at the future to see how that impacts us. And so that would be support.
So I always, my philosophy is stabilization.
Right.
We already are low, so let's keep it low over that long term. Just keep it steady. That way we can ride the highs and handle the lows without changing the tax rate. So the residents don't have to worry about, well, last year I paid this rate and now I'm, 0.3 lower this year. We have to raise it 0.2 or 100. It's better just to keep it consistent. And then we use tools like this to look out. So when you go back to the constituency, you could say, look, this is what we're looking at. These are how we plan for it. So
I'm in favor of the consistency. I really think that is the best approach. There may be years where we might be tempted to lower or whatever, but I think it is important to look forward to, projections of our reserve balances and things like that.
I think that's especially true because our rates are in fact very low as compared to all our neighbors. And we do provide the same or better level of services. But you're right, because you don't want to be behind the 8 ball if things drop. You need to have the funds to be able to manage without bouncing back and forth.
Absolutely. Okay, any other discussion? All right, thank you very much. I think
team accountant.
I know. I think that's the first time. Is that the first time? Okay, announcements. So I guess we should add Friday at 1:30. We have a special meeting. Friday, March 24th, we have a special meeting at 1:30. Thank you all for agreeing to be here for that. And anyone interested in that position, please submit by close of business Thursday. And so will we still have a special meeting Tuesday, the 28th?
I'm still going to request that we keep that meeting to really start to jump into the construction manager at risk component. The process that's deployed with that type of contractor, it's a multiple steps. So we're going to go through, approve the contract, all the steps we got to this, the pre-construction services component, get it all together. I will give you their budget, what they're proposing. Then we come back a week later with a GMP amendment, which is another instrument to attach to that contract. So you're going to get a 200-page, what are we at, Teresa, about 250-page contract to pour through. And then that way we could start getting everybody landed on the price, the process, the timelines, and the commitments that are made by Kaufman Lynn to build this, and along with our architectural team with PGAL, Sam and Joby. So get that all together. So it won't be a long meeting, but it's a good meeting we all get to know where we're at now, what the next steps are, how the process works, and then get ready for then next Friday's groundbreaking.
When will the commission have a copy of the contract?
As soon as we can get it together, we could probably get it out Thursday, tomorrow. Teresa will pull it together for us. So, yeah.
Okay, so we have our meeting Tuesday, the 28th at 1:30, a special meeting. Move on to the next item, Town Commission comments. And Commissioner Goldberg, do you have any comments?
Well, I'd like to take this opportunity to express, I'm humbled to be on this dais with you. You do such fine work. And when I came to the chambers about a year ago, and many Tuesdays, I was here alone and so enjoyed it. And actually, Doug Hillman was the first one that approached me. And he was just so kind and encouraged me. He was just so happy I was here, wanted to know about me, friendly. And leading up to the election, I spoke to him. I knew I had to talk to, if I was at all going to talk to the commissioners, I had to do it before the election. And I did. I took advantage of that. And it was wonderful meeting with him. Running for office certainly had its challenges, both good and not so good. But the best part of that experience was having the opportunity to meet and listen to and get to know my neighbors. So it was just wonderful for me. So I want to continue that outreach and encourage our residents to show up at commission and committee meetings and be actively engaged in fostering the vision that we have that's inscribed in our, in our mission statement. I think everyone would benefit from that participation, to feel that you're really a part of the community and the governance. And it'd be wonderful for us to have an active input from the community. So as your town commissioner, I'm going to read this, be assured that I take my responsibility, my duty, and my commitment to all residents of Highland Beach very seriously. And I will lead with you, the commission, with integrity, ethical behavior, transparency. And I hope to have the opportunity to, and I know I will, to work collaboratively with you all to benefit the town. I so look forward to it. And in thinking about what I was going to say today, I couldn't help but say, I wish my mother could see me now. Thank you all.
Thank you. Commissioner Peters.
Yeah, I want to follow the same. I'd just like to thank all of you, my neighbors in Highland Beach, for voting in this election. I'm extremely proud and grateful to be one of the 2 new town commissioners. I'm looking forward and working with our commission, community, workers and staff at Town Hall to address all the challenges and opportunities facing our town the next 3 years. I lived in Florida for about 15 years, the last 2.5 years in Highland Beach. And whether you cast a vote for me or not, I will always work hard to represent everyone's concerns. I know A1A was a big construction and forming the new fire department, and we walked up and down the streets. I will listen carefully to everybody's views over the next few years. I can't thank my family, my friends enough for their support, for the voter support and the encouragement during the campaign. I'd like a special thanks to the committee of Highland Beach for their support. I can tell you one thing, I will work hard to represent your voices and concerns and continue my commitment to transparency. I'm eager to work with my fellow commissioners, and I'm ready to dig in right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner David.
One of the things that happened when I was first elected was it always bothered me that they started every meeting with a civility pledge. And it was my observation that if you are civil to each other, you do not need a civility pledge.
You're right.
And fortunately, when Doug and John got on, we got rid of that because we never needed it. And I do not foresee us needing it now. That we can disagree, we can give our perspectives and our points of view, but in the end, most times things get done, it's through compromise. That my mother always said, half a loaf is better than none, because you can then go back and get some more. And I look forward to working with you both congenially. Thank you.
Welcome aboard. I am so excited you guys are here. Congratulations. And I really look forward to working with you in a productive, positive way. We all feel so passionate about our town. It's obvious with the outpouring of opinions and, you know, how we should fill the vacant seat and how we should move forward, and the condolences for Mayor Hillman. It is very obvious how much we all love this town. And I, for one, love this town, and I'm so honored to be here and to work with my fellow commissioners. So I'm excited for the future that we have. And I really look forward to all the positive that we will do together. So, town manager, maybe.
Welcome aboard. We've met both of you a couple times. We're on board. We're moving along. I promise not to. One of the things I always say is that I make seem like a wet blanket from time to time. It's not me, it's the statutes. Governance comes with a set of regulations and processes to slow us down to be more purposeful. So again, I don't do it because I want to slow it down. It's just that's what we do. So welcome aboard. I think you'll be great additions. I think we have a lot in front of us. David did a good job kind of setting the framework. We're in a strong financial position and we're organized. The community's out. Please come back. I want to reiterate that it's good seeing everybody here. I like seeing a full room. You know, even if it gets applause for an accounting project, that's fantastic. We're going to have a great time. It's a beautiful place, and we're going to continue to work forward on that. And I'll save project updates for our next series of meetings before I bore you with those. But welcome aboard. It's a great place. I'm here for you. Whatever you need, just let me know.
Town attorney.
Again, welcome aboard, and I'll certainly be chatting with you about sunshine law, public records, the real easy one. I'm the wet blanket. Sorry. Hey, they do call it the Florida bar for a reason, right? So the sunshine law in a nutshell is you cannot talk to anybody on the commission about town business outside of a public meeting. That's it. You remember that, and everything else is the fluff around it. Yeah, really good.
Okay, with that, it's 3:17 and let's adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. From anybody, and then you don't.
Right.
That's right.